So hello everyone, Nick Wagner Sr. here. Welcome to another episode of the Full Potential Live Show. I have two guests tonight, and these talented, lovely ladies are going to be quite the discussion tonight. So this is the dynamic duo of Judy, Ricker, and Jill Duval. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So we do this live on LinkedIn and YouTube, which is where we're streaming now, and then we'll also share this. We'll save it to YouTube so people can watch the whole video replay later, and then we'll also put this on my Full Potential podcast so everyone can listen to it in audio format too if they don't want to. They're unable to watch it on video. So we're going to have a fun conversation about your careers and both of your careers, which are very different, but then they've come together in a fun way with your current business, and we're going to eventually talk about that too. And I have all sorts of great questions planned for you, but I want to start with little Judy and little Jill. So way back in elementary school, and I want to know what both of you wanted to do when you grew up for jobs. Like, what was that thing you wanted to do when you were a little kid?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
I wanted to be an architect.
Okay, I'm with you, Jill. I wanted to be an architect too. So I just love that question because I think it's so interesting to hear what little kids say because they only know so many professions. Like no little kid ever says, I want to be an HR professional. That I've never heard that. So
no one says they want to be an accountant.
That's true too. All right. So why don't you guys just give like a quick 2-minute intro for each of you to my audience so they'll know a little bit about you guys before we dive into your careers and what you both do. So Judy, you want to start with who you are and a little bit about yourself?
My name is Judy Ricker. I am a mom. I have 2 kids, 9 and almost 7. I'm married, and I'm one of the owners of Ricker Duval. Is that good enough?
That's good. That's
All right.
A good start.
All right.
Hey guys, I'm Jill Duval, and I am also a mom, and I have 3 kids, and they are 9, 7, and almost 1. And I am married and one of the owners. Let's follow Judy. It's kind of similar.
Okay. So you guys are the co-owners of Ricker Duval. So you do Small Business Solutions is the abbreviated version of what your company does.
Yep.
But you took very different career paths to get to working together, which is what I want to dive into today. And this show is all about helping people hear other people's career journeys, so they can kind of get a sense of what other people that have done that's made them successful, and then maybe that can give them inspiration for their own careers. So, I think what's interesting about you guys is, Judy, you took like one of those traditional corporate career paths.
Absolutely. Yep.
You worked for, Fortune 50 companies doing all sorts of different things. And then Jill, you've been, I don't know if you've been an entrepreneur all your life, but you've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, which we're going to get into as well. So I want to start with the first thing though is, so you guys are really, really good friends, if not best friends. I mean, you're basically sisters. How long have the two of you known each other?
For 6 years, almost 6 years. So we met, we actually know each other for 9 years. We just didn't know it. That's another story. But
it's actually very true.
It's not that long of a story. I can tell it.
Go ahead.
We actually met each other when our oldest daughters started dancing together. And they started dancing when they were 3. So we've known each other since then. But fun fact, our daughters, when they were 6 and 9 months old, were in swim lessons at the Y, and we were right next to each other in these lessons and never met and never knew each other until we looked at these pictures like last year and realized that we were right next to each other in all of our pictures.
Yep. I was scrolling through pictures on Facebook, like old pictures, and I was like, oh my God, that's Jill and Kylie, like literally right next to me. We had no idea.
Never talked until they danced 3 years later.
It's interesting because you guys haven't known each other for your whole lives, right? You haven't even known each other since college, right? It was actually substantially after college you met.
Yep.
And now you're such good friends and business partners. So we'll get into that. But so you both went to college. So I want to hear, was that always in the plans for your life, is like your life path, right? Were your parents both like, Jill, Judy, you're going to college? How did that play out?
I grew up in a family of people who didn't go to college. Not my generation, but the generation above me. Anyone that went to college went after they started having kids and because their jobs told them to. And my dad was one of them. And it took him very many years to go to college, and he continued throughout. And so because watching him go through classes while I was growing up and him seeing how hard it was to do while he had kids and a full-time job, he just always push that in our heads that you will go to college. That's just part of your schooling. You don't start work before then, period. I mean, even though I did, like, that wasn't a thing that I was ever raised to be. So it was just like a known.
So speaking of work in high school, what was your first paying job in high school?
I worked for the town hall in South Windsor. I processed building permits and helped them take all of their paper files and make them electronic.
Oh, very fun. Okay.
It's boring.
Yeah, but I mean, as a high school student, that was probably pretty cool.
It was very office.
Jill, what was college always something you knew you were going to do? And also, what was your first job in high school?
Yes, my parents were, it was never an option. I was always going to college. They went to college. I'm one of 4 kids, and it was discussed since we were like, as long as I can remember, we were always going to college. And in fact, like, they had more say in it than I did. So and I was supposed to go to college for art and animation, film and animation, because I always wanted to work for Disney and be a Disney animator. And then I got into that program, got to college, and I changed my major. I did a co-op program in college. My parents had more to say about what co-ops I got to choose than I did. It turned out better for me in the end. They always knew, I guess, the right way, but yeah, they had way more say in what my career path was than I did. And my first job was actually, I worked full-time for Travelers in high school. So my parents are insurance agents, and somehow, I don't even think this would apply today, they got Travelers to hire me full-time in high school. So they gave me a laptop, and I prorated and canceled people's insurance policies like while I was in high school and college.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you ended up changing your major, Jill, and I always find it interesting, right? So you wanted to be an architect, then you ended up wanting to be a Disney animator, then you changed your major. So what did you change your major to after you decided that animation wasn't what you were going to do?
So I don't like anything stricter by the rules. I think probably because I got brought up by them. So Judy will agree. So
very true.
Film and animation they told you exactly what classes you had to take, and it was a very defined path. They made a new set of majors for my freshman year. So I changed to new media publishing because every quarter you got to pick the classes and make up your own classes. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And anything new that somebody hasn't done yet is Jill's vibe. Like, somebody dangles something new, nobody's done this before, she's like, I'm there 100%.
They were like, you're going to be in the first graduating class in this major, and I was like, yes, I am.
So Jill, you went for new media marketing, the whole digital world, and
Yep.
Judy, you went for accounting.
Finance and accounting. Yep.
And but the two of you, like, at that point, you didn't even know each other, right? So you graduated from college, and Judy, you go the corporate route and you go work for United Technologies. And what drew you to that, and what did that look like from an early career path?
That's actually what determined my major. I went into school undecided, and my freshman year, I got an internship at United Technologies in the supply chain department. And I was bored out of my mind. And one thing about me is I can't be bored. I'm always moving. I'm always going. And so I went over to the finance department because they seemed like nice people. And I was like, hey, are you bored? Do you have anything I can do? I'm really bored. And they handed me a bunch of work, and I did it. And at the end of the summer, they had a whole cost reduction department, which was finance and engineering, move on to different roles. And they needed somebody to fill into that department until they brought some engineers and finance people in. And they asked me if I want to do it. I said, sure. And I loved it. And I worked full time from my sophomore year on through college. And that I just was in finance the whole time. And I learned so much about finance and accounting that I declared a major in my sophomore year and became finance and accounting. And then I just stayed at UTC for a really long time.
And you did, I know, according to your LinkedIn, you did multiple jobs at UTC. Was
Lots.
this like, continuous, new challenges, more responsibility?
So it's kind of both. One thing is I never took a job at UTC that I wasn't asked to do. So I never applied for a job there. They always just kind of tapped on my shoulder and had me move around. But also like I said, I get bored really easily, like very easily. Ask Jill. Like I don't stop moving, and I get super like if you ever see me on video on like any of our Instagram pages, I'm always like this or playing with my hair, or you'll see it tonight. I can't stop moving, and I get so bored when I'm not learning. It's one of the reasons I left corporate world, because I just felt like I didn't know everything, but I just felt like everything I was learning was things I kind of already knew in the back of my head. So I was just like, but yeah, I got bored a lot. So I moved around a lot, and I learned a lot for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think every time you change jobs, obviously you take yourself out of your comfort zone and you're forced to learn new things, which is what I think people like about it, right? That's the scary part, but also the challenging part at the same time. But
correct.
I think there's pros and cons. So,
yes, absolutely.
So you're doing the UTC corporate thing, and then Jill, you graduate from school and do what? Like, what is your first job out of school?
So I was in a co-op program, so we had to do co-ops to graduate. So I ended on a co-op quarter. So my last co-op was a Hasbro toy company in Rhode Island, and so I just got hired by them right out of it. But I was still living at home in near Boston. I'm from Mass, and I was moving. I stayed there. I loved that job, but it was like a huge company with lots of people. You're just a number. That's totally not my gig at all. So I left there only because I was choosing to move to Connecticut, which is where my husband is from. So, but when I got here, I bounced around from family-owned business to family-owned business, all small companies, series of small companies, until I started owning my own businesses.
And you were doing what for those small companies? Marketing?
No, so I was in commercial printing. So I was project management for commercial printing in the beginning, and then I ended on marketing and advertising.
Oh, okay. So you weren't even really doing your passion at that point. It sounds like you were just.
Nope.
I mean, you were working, but not maybe something that you loved.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So let's hear the story of how you started, because you've started multiple businesses. Judy's only started one, is my understanding, and that's Ricker Duval with you. But you're like this serial entrepreneur, Jill. So tell us about the first business you started and when it was and why you started it.
So when I was working at it wasn't the last company I worked at, but it was one of the printing companies I worked at. I started baking probably just because I was pregnant with my oldest child. And I figured that was my creative outlet. I was bringing it into work and everything. It was like no big deal. I was just baking. And then when my daughter turned 1, I had her first birthday party and turned it into this giant thing and realized that like, I love party planning. I love baking, all of that, which sounds dumb saying that. I think it sounds dumb saying that because I feel like anybody can bake. I went from baking for like people locally to being a national party stylist for brands because I turned it into an online business. I never went full time with that because baking is so much work. And I was baking from like, I would have my day job and then I was baking from like 8 p.m. until like 5 a.m. and I just never slept. So I've always kept it. I still have that business today. I just scaled it way down. But working with brands and other party stylists across the country is definitely one of the coolest things I've done. It's really cool. So that was my first business. My next one was when my second child was born. So she was born with multiple medical issues, and one of them leading her to have a feeding tube. So when I had to quit my job. I had to quit my full-time job because I couldn't work with her. We were living in Boston Children's Hospital for like 2 years. So when she was like 10 months old. She had gotten a feeding tube that was leaking all the time. It became an issue because she was losing weight. And the short story is we had to solve it, or else like other things were going to happen. So my husband, Ryan, is an engineer and I was a designer. So I remember like I drew, her tube was leaking at night. She was on it 24/7. Yeah. I drew on a piece of paper for him, like what I needed to solve this problem. And he came home one day with it. He had like designed it and grew it. And we were using it for like almost a year until I was in a bunch of feeding tube caregiver groups on Facebook, and somebody had posted one day. I remember it was like in the summer. I remember Ryan wasn't even home, and I was using, we just called it a bracket at the time. It didn't even have a name. And somebody posted that their tubes were leaking, and their kid, a lot of these kids get taken away from their parents, and they were, because they think other stuff is going on. They were worried their kid was going to get taken away if they didn't stop the leaking. So I was like, oh my, I have something I made. I'll just send it to you. And within like 18 minutes of me posting that in that group, I had over $500 like in my PayPal account. People had just sent money to me hoping I would send them this thing. So it wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even a product at the time. Yeah. So that night I named it and started the company, told Ryan that we were starting a company the next day. And the rest is history. We still sell it. We just got the patent approved this month. We've been working on the patent for 4 years. Oh, wow. Thanks. And it's almost FDA approved. So that's still, we won a CT from CT Next and Reset, an entrepreneur award, a grant from the state for it. And ever since then, it's been a growing company. So.
And where do you guys manufacture it?
We grow it ourselves.
What do you mean you grow it?
We, can I see you guys? Right there on that 3D printer right there.
Oh, you 3D print them. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So let me ask you this question. So you've started now 3 companies, right? I think it's 3.
Yep.
Is entrepreneurship like a family thing of yours? Like are your family members entrepreneurs? Like, because a lot of times entrepreneurs come from other entrepreneurs. So who in your family is an entrepreneur?
Both my parents. So my parents have both owned their own businesses my entire life. My dad owns a financial planning company, and then both my parents own an insurance agency. So as long as I've known, they've always worked for themselves, and I grew up in that lifestyle. And learned everything I know about owning a business from them.
Yeah, I think that's very common, because I think it's you have to be slightly crazy to start your own business, and I think everyone that's done it knows that, because it's just, it's terrifying, right? I've done it. We've talked about that. It's not an easy thing to do, right? And it's there's a lot of uncertainty with it. So it takes someone who's slightly
go ahead, say it, Nick.
Slightly enjoys risk to start your own company. So,
if it's not risky, I don't want to do it.
I mean, I hope that doesn't involve like skydiving and all sorts of other things too. But maybe just from the career perspective.
It does.
So, all right. So you got 2 businesses at this point. So you're not working for anyone else. You own 2 of your own businesses. Your husband works.
Yep.
And so you meet Judy while you own these other 2 businesses, correct?
Yep.
And so how did you guys get from being in swim class and not knowing each other to being friends and then deciding to start a business? And I say that because as someone who I had my own business with 3 of my friends that started in college. Yeah. And, starting a business with someone's a big deal. And, starting a business with your friends is a big deal, because you inherently are going to fight about things, right? There are going to be disagreements, and you are going to get angry with each other. You're going to get upset with each other. And it can just put a really, really big strain on the friendship. So, like, how did everything come to the point where you wanted to start another company and you somehow convinced Judy to quit her job at a very stable Fortune 50 company? How did this happen? Who wants to tell the story?
I'll tell my part of it.
Let's all start, because she's the one who started it. I'll follow up.
So when we started it, it was 2017, and right, Judy? I think. Yeah. So I was getting to the point where my other 2 businesses were stable and growing, and I was happy with them. But like, I get the itch to like start a new business. I have it all the time. Judy has
Still has
stopped me from starting more since Ricker Duval, but she is not stopping me this year. So I knew that I was going to start another business, and I already had one by myself. I had one with my husband. So I was like, I need a partner for my next one. At the time, there was no, Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no like giant lead up. We were friends, not as close as we are now. And we were talking about how between who she knows in town and who I know and all the business, we were doing so much for so many businesses locally for free. We're like doing their bookkeeping, we're running their shows, we're running their events, we're running like building things and baking for people. Like we were doing everything for businesses, and we got to a point where like, this is funny. We should just do it like by ourselves and make a business out of it. And it took like, I asked her one time and she looked at me and she was like, yeah, all right. Like she came over my house one night. The longest part of this discussion was us coming up with our name. And as soon as we came up with our name, we were already running the business.
I think I opened the company the next day.
Yep.
So Judy, I mean, Jill was already a serial entrepreneur and already owned 2 of her own businesses. So this wasn't really a huge leap for her to start a third business, right? Because she's kind of already doing it. You are not at this point an entrepreneur. You are working in you've been in corporate since you graduated from college. You've been very successful, probably making great money with great benefits, stable job. What made you want to just give all that up? And what on earth did your husband say when you were like, oh, hey, I'm going to quit my job and go start a business with Jill? Like, how did that conversation go?
So I think there was a number of factors in it. One, my family is not entrepreneurs at all. Everybody works at a corporation. But my dad is very successful. I actually tell him he should write a book. He's a very successful business person. He ended his career as a president at an oil rigging company down in Texas. He's on a number of boards across the country. And I grew up watching him be super successful in the corporate realm. But I also grew up watching, not actually knowing who he was, because I never saw him because he was so successful and he was an executive before I was 10. So I didn't really want that life because I saw it. And he also would always be in my ear saying to me, listen, I got a lot of money from this, but the satisfaction of doing it yourself would be so much more. And you have the ability to do it yourself. And I always poo-pooed it. And I was like, I know how much work it takes to own a company. I know how much that would be. And I didn't want to do it. But I was a senior manager by the time I was 30 in corporate. And as I was getting into my 30s, I was like, everyone wanted me up. The next stop for me was to be at that executive level that he was at my whole life. And I didn't want it. I didn't want to have the hours that it required. And also I was sitting in the corporate world feeling like I really wasn't helping anybody or doing anything. I was just kind of there. And I didn't feel like it was anything I was doing was super important. And again, I just wasn't learning as much as I used to learn. So Jill called me, and I was right around the time that like I had my current company in my ear, like, you need to move up. I had already worked directly for the CFO. So the next level was CFO, and I just wasn't interested. And she called me, and it was like, I was already thinking about moving around. So I was like, sure. My husband, to answer that question, super not on board. I was the breadwinner at the time, and he was like, what? No way are you doing this. He wasn't on board at all with me leaving the job. And I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to start the company. I'm going to keep working. And it's going to be like a year or two before we get busy enough where I'm going to have to leave. But that didn't happen. 6 months in, we were so busy and grown so much, I had to quit my job. So it was a little bit of a shell shock for him. He's been super supportive since, but yes, it was a little bit of, he was like, what is wrong with you? Who are you? What have you done with my wife?
So I want to, and Jill, I'm not trying to ignore you, but I really want to focus on this part with Judy, because I think a lot of people, like Jill, you had already done it, right? So that's why you were already in your third business. I think a lot of people dream about what Judy just talked about doing, but are terrified of doing it. They never do it, right? Because it's one of those things that, well, should I really quit my job? Should I really go pursue my dream? Should I, is it too risky? Can I make enough money? This is because obviously, like, Judy, like you said, this is a big decision. Your husband obviously knew it was a big decision. What was, what I want to try for my audience is like, take people through your decision process, right? Like, did you weigh the pros and cons? Did you write it down? How did that happen? Because I think a lot of people, and again, like, you guys are both really, really successful, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because other people are going to listen to this and say, you know what, if Judy can do it, why can't I do it, right? So I just want to kind of hear a little bit more about like the actual decision process in your head, because I just feel like it was a pretty big risk. Not to say
It's
that,
huge.
not to say that Jill wasn't successful and that you were partnering with someone that didn't have a good track record, but to give up where you were in your career and to be able to go to that next level and make that leap, not everyone gets that opportunity. So tell me a little bit about, like, how you actually made the decision, like the process.
So I did a lot of writing things down, a lot of pros and cons. I did a lot of talks with my husband. I'm a numbers person, so I ran the numbers 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. I'm also, just for anyone who knows me, I'm the cheapest person in the entire world. So I might have been making a very large salary at the time, but I didn't spend any of it. So I had a lot in savings, which really helped me, because I knew that I could go over a year with not taking any money from our company and be totally fine financially. So that was a huge thing. I don't suggest, whenever we're talking to, like, Jill and I talk to a lot of people who are interested in making a business. I never suggest anyone quits their day job right away, or even as quickly as I did, because I had to for a reason. But like, I always tell people, just keep it as long as you can, because companies don't really normally make it in the first year or the first 5 years. And that's your time where you really have to, like, make sure you have something to fall back on. We planned. I'm a planner. Jill and I are very opposite people, and she is like I'm saying it and I'm going to do it, but I am like a super planner. So we had like a business plan. We had how it was going to do, what was our marketing plan, what was our financial plan. I just felt like and like I said, it just, like, Jill came to me at the perfect time where I was desperate for change and desperate for something different. And here, the other thing is what made it a little easier for me, and it might have been a false sense of security, but I had a sense of security that I had made such a good network at the previous companies I've been in, that I still on a weekly basis had people calling me, asking me to come work for them in those companies, that at that point I knew if I did it for a year and it didn't work, it would be very easy for me to fall back in to where I was. And
that makes sense.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I mean, I still get probably, like, now it's less because people know what I'm doing, but I still probably once, like, every 3 months, once every quarter, I still get a call asking me if I'm interested in going back. I mean, I'm not, but like, I always had that false sense of security that, like, if I needed it, I could always go back, because I had worked so hard on that network and so hard at that role prior to it.
It sounds like, what your father said really resonated with you on the whole idea of, I made a lot of money in the corporate world, and I made a lot of money, being an executive, but I missed seeing my family as much as I wanted to, right? So that seems like it really resonated with you. But now on the flip side of that, and I want to ask both of you, owning your own business is not easy, and it doesn't mean you work less hours than the corporate world. So
you work way more.
Way more.
Well, right. So I want to ask that question: is you're working more, but are you able to just be more flexible? Is that why you guys can see your families, and that's why, like, for you, Judy, ended up being a better decision?
It's different for both of us. Yeah.
Jill and I have very different. We own the same company. We have very different, like,
very different lives. Very different work schedules.
Mm-hmm. So I am kind of a workaholic. And I'm not the type of person who can have, like, anything that has, like, a number on my checklist. I can't have anything open. It stresses me out. If I know a client is waiting for something, it bothers me until they get it. I won't sleep. So one of my biggest struggles owning a company is I don't stop working. we recently just opened up our office. We were working out of our homes for a while, and then we recently just opened up an office. One of the main reasons was because we had employees that they needed somewhere to go. But the other main reason, honestly, was because Judy never stopped working, because our main stuff was at my house and I could not step away from my office. I never left that room. So it's been a little bit harder for me from a work-life balance perspective. It's a personality thing. I just don't stop. I always am going. And on the plus side, if I have to walk away in the middle of the day to go to do a room parent thing for my kid,
right,
I can. Like, it's not a big deal, and there's no one telling me no because I'm the boss. So it definitely gives me more flexibility, but because of my personality, I work more. I just do.
No, I get that. And so back to this decision to start this company. So the two of you were friends, but you had never worked together before. So, so Jill, why did you ask Judy to start this company? Like, what made you think to yourself, yeah, she'd be a good business partner to start this small business consulting firm?
The number one reason is trust. I trust basically nobody. I just don't really trust people ever. Like, to a fault, but ever since I met Judy through, I think one of my best qualities is judging character. And I've always, since I met her, she's one of the most loyal, trustworthy people you'll ever meet. And never once have I ever doubted that. And because she was at a point in her corporate job, that she wanted to leave. Like, she was talking about leaving all the time. And at the same time, it was kind of like I saw my in because she was talking about leaving all the time. And I already knew I wanted to own a new business. The thing is, when I asked her, I think why we did it so quickly and why it was never a question that we were gonna do it. We never, since the beginning, have ever asked ourselves, will this work? We always, since the beginning, we always knew, we know we're going to be successful in anything we do. It's just the type of personalities we both have. That's where we come together. And it's usually me making our to-do list and me making our goals and dreams, I should say. And every single one that we do, we're successful in because we go at it like it has to happen. It will happen. It's never a question in our mind.
I think you were saying earlier, Nick, that you have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
But I think one of the main reasons a lot of entrepreneurs fail is because they're really good on the crazy side. They're not really good on the process side. And one of the reasons Jill and I work so well together is because she is one of the most creative people I know. I am not even remotely creative. I'm an accountant. I'm like debits and credits, and that's where you are. And so she'll call me with 1,000 different ideas every single day. Literally, I'm not kidding. On a daily basis, I get her list of new ideas and new businesses and new services that we're doing. And I have to go through and say, no, okay, maybe this, but we have to put that plan together for that. No. So we work really well together. It's like the number one question we get: why do you work so well together? Why did you decide to go in business together? Because we're very similar in the fact that we do disagree on things. We never really argue. We disagree, but we're both straight shooters. Like, I tell her exactly how I feel. She tells me exactly how she feels. Neither of us also take things very personally. So it's just like, all right, you don't have to agree with me on this. We'll table it and put it and come up with it another time when we are on the same page. But like, we have each other's weaknesses. The other one has that as the strength. So it works really well together.
You complement each other well, which is probably why you guys work so well together. So, so tell us a little bit about the business, right? So I mentioned earlier, like you guys do business solutions for small businesses, but what does that mean? I mean, obviously you do financial stuff with accounting with you, Judy. You do marketing, Jill. But like, how do businesses find you? Like, what does the business actually look like?
Yeah, so we made up the term business solutions because of when you normally think of a marketing agency or a bookkeeping agency, they don't go together. And we, for 3 years, people they're like, you do what? And why does that even make sense? The way we put it is, any small to mid-sized company, all the stuff you don't do, we do. So all the back office stuff, anything that you would outsource or hire somebody for, like we either do it between the two of us, between our experience, or we work with people that do now our company is bigger, but
Right.
anything on the finance side. And we actually had more, we started with different business like avenues before, and we've narrowed it down now to the things that we were doing. A lot of things in marketing and a lot of things in finance, but we narrowed it down to the things we want to focus on, because there's more that we're doing.
Right.
There's more things we're coming out with soon, and then there's more businesses that we're doing. That stuff we want to stick to the things that we want to do, that make us like that. That's our passion. There's so many things we could do, but so the event planning part of it came into it because I was doing event planning for my other company. Judy was doing it for her corporate company. And that's something that we love doing. Does it fit with the other two? Maybe not to most people, but when the companies that we already work with for like marketing, when they come, or bookkeeping, when they come and they're like, oh, I really want to have an anniversary party, an open house, I'm opening a new location. We're like, oh, we'll throw the party for you. We'll do the event. We'll do the dinner. We'll do any number of events. And it turned into, we also love giving back to mainly our community, to basically anybody we can. So we started large charity events, nonprofit events in town to give back. Just our services are free, just to give back to the community, because we love throwing events. So
we also love surprising people, because especially me as an accountant, most people, like when they see that we can throw like fun events, are like, you can do this? And we're like, yes, we actually can.
I mean, I should say, like, it's not, nothing we do is traditional. So it's not the marketing you think it is. It's not the bookkeeping you think it is, even though that seems like it's straightforward. It's not, because the bookkeeping you get from us is so much more. There's so much, the services that we give, there's so much value added, that's what makes us different than everybody else that does it. Because if you need marketing that somebody else does, you need different things. You need, we've created, so we have collaboration marketing, fundraiser marketing. Those are not things that you typically go to an agency for, but we've termed them differently, because different people need different things in order to get their message out there. So we kind of create whatever you need.
Yeah, and I like how you call it business solutions, because to your point, you both, the company does a lot of different things. And, traditionally, like you said, it would be, hey, this is a business, it is a marketing agency, or this is a business and they do accounting and finance, but you kind of put them together, right? And now you have, what you guys have created, which I think is great. So the business has been open for since 2017. So you're in year 3, year 4, right? Year 4.
Yep.
How is it going? Like, and I want to hear what's been the biggest success of the business so far and the biggest failure of the business so far.
Judy, you want to go, or me?
You want to do the success because you like talking successes. I'll do the failure.
Okay, so when we talk about our business, to me, everything is a success, and every single thing we do is awesome, and I'm super optimistic about everything. Success is that we are still open. So many small businesses are not open still. They don't last past the first year or the first 2 years, 5 years, whatever. We have been profitable since the beginning, since day one. And we are in a great position to grow. We've grown year after year by, Judy could give you the numbers, but a lot. And
we've over doubled our business each year.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So we have gotten to the point where, we are selective about the business we take so that it fits what we do, and we don't just take any business. And the success is that we're able to do all of the new. I'm a creative person, and if you're not a creative person, you kind of don't get it. But if you are, I live and die by the fact that my ideas, I get to see them through. And because we're successful, I get to see my ideas through with me and Judy. And that is the biggest success.
I love the optimism and the enthusiasm.
She's always optimistic.
Always.
So Judy, what's the biggest failure? And I always ask that question because failure leads to opportunity and you learn from it. So what's your biggest failure you guys have had as a company so
So
far?
I totally agree with that. And actually it's funny, Jill and I are constantly debating about this because I love when we get negative feedback. I think it's the best way to grow professionally or for a company. So I'd say the biggest failure that we've had in our company is doing too much. So we do a lot. And at the very beginning, we were like, of course we'll do this. And of course we'll do this. And you get to a point where, you know, we hire people, but people expect us because we've always been the ones that have been there and doing it. So that growing pain of like us as owners doing all the work and doing so much of it. And we're a service-based company and people trust us because they trust us and they trust our faces. So bringing on employees is hard. And when you do so much and you promise so much and they want it from you as a service-based business, that's hard. So that's like, we've had some bumps in the road from that perspective because
we tried to hire a salesperson and it didn't work because people weren't going to buy our services from anybody but Judy and I. We sell our company and that's.
I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, and we're still in it. One of the hardest things right now is that, so as a bookkeeper, a lot of our clients we do virtually, but we do have a handful of clients that I have to go to on a weekly basis. And it got to the point where my schedule was full from 9 to 3 every single day of the week at clients. I had no time to work on our company. So I had no time. So our company kind of stalled for a little bit because we couldn't move forward.
Our brand is us, you know, our brand is the two of us. So I am over here, you know, and now trying to turn our company into an online company too, because we're kind of in 2 different places now. I can't do that without us. So we're trying to move Judy out of what her typical role is so that she can come back and work on what we are, you know, from the beginning. So our brand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one of the most challenging things for all entrepreneurs is how do you prioritize, right? There's so many things to do. There's only so much time. You both have families, you know, with little kids, you need to spend time with them. So, you know, how do you balance all that? That's always been a challenge. So, so how is, I want to ask this question and it'll be interesting to hear your answers. How has this affected your friendship, right? And I mean that in a very serious way, because I think a lot of people listening who want to start their own business, they think about it, right? It's like, do I start it with family? Do I start it with friends or by myself or with someone I don't know, right? And those are 4 very different options. And you guys started together as friends. So how has this affected your friendship? How are you guys doing? And you know, I'm sure there's good days and bad days, but in general, like what would you grade yourself as far as your friendship 4 years into your business relationship?
I don't even think we've like ever answered this question too.
Well, we can't answer that. So we haven't. Here's the thing. I think our friendship has gotten way stronger. Our families have become more like family than friends. And I think like I said earlier, Jill and I are super blunt people. So if I'm like annoyed with something that Jill's doing or I don't like it, it does not take long for me to call her and be like, listen, this has to change and it's got to change now. I don't like it. And she does the same thing to me. So people tell us all the time, you should never open a business with a friend or a family member. And here's the thing. We don't disagree with that. We have a rule in our business. We don't hire friends or family.
No.
So that was like day 1 rule for us. We are not hiring any friends or family to be involved in this. And so we get that. And we also understand this question. We have people speculating about our friendship all the time. And
I was going to say, it's literally like that's why we're stronger. Because people, I don't know if it's, I grew up with a lot of entrepreneurs, but maybe that was just my parents' network and everything. Yeah. But people around in Judy and I's circle are not entrepreneurs. Most people actually work for like UTC or the same company. So the fact that we do it has somehow like floored people's minds that that's actually our job, that we make money on. And for me, especially, the doubt that other people give us only makes me more successful. It makes me closer to Judy, more, oh my God, because I love a challenge too. So like the biggest thing you can do is doubt me. That's the best thing to make me more successful.
I think anyone who asks us like because we have gotten the question, what do you suggest for people who are like working as a partner? I think the big thing is, one, we just have an innate trust for each other. So even if I'm annoyed with her or she's annoyed with me, or we don't we always trust each other. So that's like never going to go away. And two, you just have to communicate. You can't let things fester. There is not a time that she is frustrated with me that she will not call me and be like, I don't like how this is going. And there's not a time that I won't call her for that. You just have to be open, and you cannot take things personally. You have to be okay with hearing from the other person and trust that it's always coming from a good place, that something is not going on.
And we don't always get there right away either.
No,
I like your idea of radical transparency, but you know what you guys are saying, it's hard. I mean,
it's super hard.
These are not easy things, and I think, but I think back to your original point though, it's like, you know, I started my business with 3 friends. You know, I think starting a business with a stranger would be kind of scary, in my opinion. You know, like how do you know if you trust that person? So no, I just think it's fascinating, and you know, I asked that question because I think a lot of people that want to start their own business really kind of go back and forth. Do I do it as a sole proprietor? Do I ask someone to partner with me? Like, what's the right answer? And I mean, I think doing it by yourself is hard, right? Just because if you do it by yourself, you'll literally have no one else to fall back on at all. You have the two of each other, that's huge, right? Because if one of you is sick, or one of you, I mean, Jill, you had your 3rd child while you owned the business, right? I mean, that wasn't easy. So I think having that partnership is really beneficial for a lot of reasons, even if there are, difficult and troubling times.
I think it's also too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Judy.
I was saying, I think you kind of have to get to know somebody really well too. Like, you have to know them, because like there are things that Jill does that like I would never do as my personality, but that's who Jill is, and I'm never going to fault her for that. And the same thing with me. There's ways that I handle things Jill would never handle that way, but she doesn't fault me for it because it's just who I am. You know?
Right, yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to the trust you guys have.
Yeah.
So what's next? Like, I don't know what you can share and can't share.
Don't ask Jill this question. She'll give you this mile long.
I'll ask Jill. So give me 2 things that you plan on doing in 2020 to take Ricker Duval into the next level and continue to grow the business.
There's 2 new businesses for us that I'm working on. Judy, don't say no. She knows what they are. They're great. They will happen and they will be a success. I can't tell you what they are yet, but they'll be extensions of Ricker Duval, but like separate, nothing to do with what we do now. There's some new,
I would say, product lines coming out. I say product line, they're not actual products, but well, I guess they kind of are. Well, we developed based on client feedback and prospect feedback, things that people are saying, I don't want this service, but because I can do this part, but I can't do this part. So we've kind of listened to our customers and came up with some new things from Ricker Duval's perspective that we're rolling out actually, hopefully in the next few weeks. What we have to just get like logistics done, and we'll be rolling out better to grow. Ricker Duval.
We're moving from not just a local in-person company. Right. We're going to be online.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Very cool. So I always close the show with the same question for every guest, and I want both of you to answer it because it's going to be, I think, a very different answer from both of you. So clearly, you've both been successful in very different ways. You know, Judy in the corporate world, now an entrepreneur. Jill really is an entrepreneur, like kind of grew up an entrepreneur with your family on your 3rd business. What is the one thing you would share with my audience that's helped you both be so successful and ultimately help you reach your full potential, right? So what is that one piece of advice that you'd share that has served you so well? Judy, you go first.
All right. So my one piece of advice that I tell everybody is never stop learning. So, and I don't just mean in your field. One of the biggest things that I think has helped me be as successful as I have been to date, and to be able to talk business, not just from an accounting perspective, but from a broad perspective. Like, I can walk into any client and talk marketing, business, like business solution, like literally anything about their business. I can talk pretty educationally. And it's because when I was in the corporate world, I never stayed in my lane. I learned everything supply chain did. I learned everything engineering did. I learned everything operations did. I became Six Sigma Lean certified, which is normally at that time, only engineers were becoming that, because I was curious about it. And it's one of the reasons I was successful in the corporate world. And it's one of the reasons that we can go into pretty much any company and be able to see like, okay, here's your processes. And I know I'm only your bookkeeper, but have you ever thought of doing this, this, and this on your production line? Because it's going to streamline it and save you this much money. And that's with across, I don't care what industry you're in. I always tell people, learn who your customers are and then learn what they do. Because that'll help you be a better client.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, Jill, your turn.
So at first it sounds cliche, but like mine is trust your gut. So if I had ever listened to anybody else's advice or opinions about what I should do, I would never be where I am today. I would never have owned any business. All the companies that I worked for, the reason why I moved from company to company was because it just was never good enough for me. And I knew the only thing good enough for me was when I was my own boss and I was making the rules and that I got to see my dreams happen. And fortunately, the other things in my life have allowed me to go chase those dreams. But, you have to trust your own intuition and know that like, if that's what you're meant to do and that's all you want to do, then you have to pull out all the stops to make it happen. And so I trust your gut and I don't take no for an answer. I really don't. I love a challenge. And I think that that's the best way to grow.
Well said. Well, I appreciate you both joining. I know you're both really busy. You both have families. You both have a lot of work to do. And you know, we're obviously in the middle of a global pandemic, so it's a very strange time. So I really appreciate you both making time. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and I'm glad we were finally able to do it because I think such like cool different stories that come together to form the business you guys have today and the friendship you have today. It's just cool to see how your different paths took you ultimately to where you are now. So thank you. I appreciate the great advice, and hopefully we'll connect again soon. I will absolutely make sure to link to Ricker Duval in the show description on YouTube and in the podcast. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you guys about business solutions for their small and mid-sized business, they can reach out to you, of course.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, ladies.
Have a good one.
Bye, Nick.